Good morning, this is Bruce and welcome to my shop, and today we'll talk a little bit about me, Bruce Witham, the son of Jim. And first of all, I need to pay tribute to my team. I'm wearing a hat, and my football team, who just made back-to-back premierships, which is a rarity in the modern game. And I salute the boys for doing an extremely good effort as coming from the underdogs to win the grand final this year. And I'd also like to pay tribute to Keith Fenner, who basically was the catalyst for me starting my channel. And I salute also Adam Booth, who is a very proud lad, and I think what he does as a service is excellent. I don't have aspirations to be so prolific with what I'm doing, but I'm just bumping along here and trying to help other people out, due to the fact that in years gone by, and I'll talk about that, I did train up a lot of people, but these days, being working on my own, it's a lot harder, and so I'm very pleased with the results of my channel up to now, with people giving me great feedback and on what I do, and I intend to carry on with that. Now, I was born in the Western District of Victoria in Australia, and that's a farming area. That's where my father spent quite a bit of his time. And I'm number 4 of 9 children, born in 1948, so it was post-war, a large family, so everything was quite tight and pretty harsh in those days. But we did a lot with our father. His father was a self-taught master carpenter and builder and fix-it man. So my early years, even from the age of 6 or so, he made steps up onto his bench so I could get on to the shadow board to get to the tools. So I was in my father's shadow basically from that age on, and didn't leave his side much. And I went to school in 2 rural towns, and the last 2 years of my formal schooling were in technical college, and at the same time, of course, working at home and helping my dad. He concentrated quite a lot at one stage in pulling houses apart and moving them and rebuilding them as seaside resorts, and building annexes and all sorts of building work for a myriad of different jobs, and all the way up to building, putting in crushing plants and so forth. When I turned 14, I left school to join the family business, and I worked with my dad until 19, and we basically had the first rural hire service, and what we did was we bought old equipment and we rebuilt it and hired it out, and an offshoot of that hire service, of course, was building trailers, and being that my dad worked also as a linesman and a fix-it man, we did a lot of repairs to wooden ladders for the linesmen, and of course a lot of other work for the telecommunications industry. We also, from the trailers, we went into greater and greater trailer building and rebuilt low loaders, redecked them and so forth, and carried on with the hire service. At the same time, a neighbour down the road opposite us was an engineer, and he took me in and taught me the tool making trade and boiler making trades. He's a very, very, very astute and smart engineer, and he was an inventor, and I learned basically everything there was to learn on the older machinery. Was capstan lathes. We had two shafts running the full length of the workshop under the roof, with motors on the outside of the building, and all our machines, the lathes and everything, were all run by flat belts from those two shafts. So that's where I cut my teeth on that, and we did everything that you could do in a rural area, which is far from the main cities. My dad also was a specialist in scrounging things, as money was very, very tight. So we used to go on the monthly trip to Melbourne, which is about 90 miles away, to buy up lots from government clearance auctions. And the weekends were spent with a trailer going through the rubbish tip, the local rubbish tip, picking up bits and pieces and bringing them back and making stuff out of them. So the can-do attitude come from my father, and there was nothing, not from a walking stick to a kettle spout, or up on roofs in the winter repairing sheet metal roofs with the soldering irons and the pump up heaters and that sort of thing. So that was great training for me. And when in 1967 we immigrated to Israel, and worked there in the building industry, and then afterwards went to a kibbutz. And very quickly I took over the workshops there, the mechanical and structural workshops, and built that up over many years. And that I specialised in all repairs for everything from steam boilers, kitchen equipment, through to structures. I've designed and built many buildings, sheep pens through cattle pens to irrigation systems, tractor parts and repairs, bulldozers, and we had a foundry in that same area, and I did a lot of work in that foundry as well. In the early 80s I also studied aeronautical casting welding, and become quite proficient at that, and one day a week I welded castings from aluminium aircraft quality castings for McDonnell Douglas and other companies. And then during that period of time, during the late 60s and mid 70s, while I was running the workshop and doing large project work, I did more and more project management work, and that entailed quite a lot of my time in project management, and these projects got larger and larger, and accumulated in large irrigation systems and automated systems. So I was also on the cutting edge there, developing computerized systems for irrigation, for large irrigation systems. I then took a sabbatical, and in 86 I took a sabbatical and went and run dive boats, and dive boats and underwater filming and so forth. And consequent to that, I went and worked for the National Water Carrier as one of the roving technicians that looked after remote pumping stations and pipelines and so forth, which was a very large system throughout the southern Israel. And from there I went to, this sabbatical became 3 years basically. And the third year I worked as a maintenance engineer in a factory that made magnetic cores, and I built a winding machine there that worked for 25 years, and just recently they retired it. And that was a very successful period of my time as well. And this was while I was waiting for a hydroelectric power station to be given the nod from all the government bodies to go ahead. So I went back to the kibbutz in 1989 and managed went back into the irrigation systems and electrical workshops as well, because while I was away on sabbatical, I studied electricity and got my electrician certificate by working in the factories and that, and doing night school for 2 years. And then I took over the coordination of the construction of the power station, and I was the client's representative for that, and run that construction until completion, and then managed the power station for a couple of years. And in 1993, I came back to Australia and brought my wife and youngest son to Australia in 93. And came to the rural town of Kalgoorlie in Western Australia, and started to work as supervising construction projects, mainly at gold mining, but also it spread out to all sorts of other minerals and precious metals. And then I came to Perth, and I worked for quite a few different projects. On quite a few projects from here. I also went to New Guinea and built a mine. Worked on a mine site construction in the mountains of New Guinea. I worked on main roads assessments of repair works on roads in a remote area in northwestern Australia. Worked on a $2 billion construction project of a pellet plant and briquette plant in the north, and which has since been demolished. That was a total chaos. I worked around all sorts of industries, chemical industries, and mainly mining. And the last 10 years of my tenure as in construction management, I was a corporate construction manager for one of the companies here in Perth, and I looked after quite a few projects, and then 3 years ago, basically, I decided to completely disconnect from the construction business after 20 years of being away and having great responsibilities of many hundreds of people on sites and $100 million projects and so forth, and I decided to go back to my roots, and I turned this workshop, which was basically a hobby shop, shed at the back of the house. I turned that into a full-blown workshop for jobbing, tool making, thread repairs and jobbing, and here I am. So that's quite a brief description. Of course, I have my darling wife, Batya, who's been with me for 45 years, to look after me in the other senses of things, and produce the, well, she's in bed at the moment, but produce the tea and the food on the table, and look after the house, and be my partner and mother of my 3 children. My favourite eldest daughter, well, the only daughter, my favourite eldest son, who lives in Melbourne, and my favourite youngest son, who from time to time also works with me, and who's a boilermaker by trade, but he's also got the can-do attitude, and I suppose, as I say to him, I'm not to blame for that. I'm just passing that on from my father, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. I'm really living the dream. The money's not the same as what it was when I was doing construction work, of course, in a major player in the construction business, but it pales in significance against the pride I get in being able to design and produce items like this. This is number 3, core cutter, and the core cutter blade remover, So, and all sorts of other items that come through the door here. That's it in a nutshell. And thank you for watching.